Hello everyone and welcome to yet another live coding and chill. I'm your host Johnny, delighted to be here. Hope you're having an amazing week and a great Sunday, a wonderful life. Today we'll be working with the exciting new thing by GitHub, GitHub Codespaces. I got into the developer preview, so as promised, I'm gonna cover it today in an extra special episode. As always, no affiliations whatsoever, which I think is great. Because if we use this tool, I'm free to speak my mind. If I like it, then you're gonna be like, oh, this is nice. Maybe you'll give it a try. If I don't like it, you'll be like, oh, maybe this is rubbish. I'm not gonna use it. I'll be able to talk about the pros and cons liberally, freely, and then you can make your own decisions. No one is telling me, say that GitHub Codespaces is awesome or Bolt New is better or whatever. I think that's very nice. I think that's very clean. And that's one of the reasons I'm super excited about today. But what is GitHub Codespaces anyway? So available now in a preview period. I don't know how many people around the world have tried it yet, but lots of people will in the near future, I am sure. It's all about taking a back seat as a developer and working more as a PM, project manager, product owner, hands-off CEO, non-technical founder, and describe what you want your app, your tech to do. And then GitHub Codespaces is gonna create the pull requests, the code that's gonna add those features into your app. There are other selling points as well, which I am super excited about, in that it also creates environments so you can actually check out if the code actually works without you needing to have your powerful laptop or workstation, check out the code, spin up the server, and then actually see if it works. There are other ways to do this. Sometimes I've got into arguments during interviews with other people when I tell them, well, if I find the test meaningful and they still pass, I'm not gonna take out the code. I'm gonna make my comments and move on with my life and merge it, even if I don't try it locally. And some people think I'm insane for saying that. So for those people especially, I do think it's gonna be quite important that you should be able to just click a button and review whether the thing is doing the thing that you want it to do with these code chains. But even outside of that, even for me who has confidence in tests, it is going to be quite a game changer when it comes to onboarding, is what they say in the marketing page here, which is true. In many companies, you spend like a week trying to get your new work laptop through all the firewalls and all the bloatware, spyware that they have for you. And that's quite a lot of time. That's quite a lot of effort, especially if you're working with contractors, as they say here, because maybe you just have them for like 3 months at most. And if they spend like 2 weeks trying to set up their workstation, their credentials aren't set up for everything anyway, and then you need to revoke their credentials and whatnot. That's a lot of wasted time as a business. So if they're able to just work on a project with what GitHub Codespaces is providing, that'd be great. That'd be making them start adding value into the project faster, real value, not I can start running the code finally after a week. Anyway, we'll see if all those claims are true and more in this episode, where we're going to be using this to build a brand new app. I have a couple ideas in my head of what I want the app to be, but I'll make up the decision on the fly. In theory today, it's a hands-off episode. One of the big features is that it sets up the PR, you have the environment, so you can even in the browser start editing the code if you don't like it. But I'll try to do this the least amount as possible, just to stay hands-off, just to keep the experience hands-off, because at some point, you know, if I end up changing everything, what's the point of using this tool? Even in projects where I have written everything, like Gainzatron, the project series that we've been doing for the past month, even on that one, it would be handy if over the Christmas holidays or whenever, or if I'm skiing and I have like a good idea for Gainzatron, it would be cool if I could just describe a feature that I want in GitHub, and then the AI is creating most of the code there, and then through my phone I'm able to say, oh, actually change this or change that, and then I actually can deploy this feature while I'm in the Alps in a summit or something. because that would be the coolest thing I can do in the Alps or while skiing, because I'm not good at skiing. But that's, by the by, another cool thing that I'm excited to test out if it actually works as advertised at this moment for today. We do have a big agenda, which I'll start getting into now. And you'll excuse me, as always, as I take a bit of time to write up the timestamps as we hit them. It allows me to create chapters soon after the live happens, so you're able to skip around through the bits that you ramble about for too long for subjects that aren't super interesting to you. You can skip around to the parts where I talk about things that really interest you. So the next subject that we're gonna hit is something that people have been talking about. There was a nice quote that more than a quarter of new code in Google is AI. So I would like to hit that and elaborate. So there was an earnings call, and Sander said one soundbite that everyone is running on, like the Verge and the other websites. They're really focusing on that. And the soundbite that they're running with is that hasn't been redacted, is it? Let's just say 25%. Like a lot of AI soon have searched for AI by AI. All right, here you go. Quarter was there. So today, more than a quarter of all new code at Google is generated by AI and then reviewed and accepted by engineers. So people have talked about this. To me, this is extremely meaningless because there is no context about it. What does generated by AI mean? If I knew what it means, then I'd be super excited to talk about this more. But what I'm actually excited to talk about is, what could it even be? What do you consider AI generated code? Because I think that's where most of the interest in a code like this comes. So this is where I would also love chat participation as well, but I realize I don't usually have the numbers for this, because if I did, I would be running polls to tell you AI code. And would you consider code that Prettier puts out, running Prettier on your code base? Do you consider this? Do you consider Prettier output to be AI code? And I would love to hear the chat's opinion on this. I would suspect that some people would say that's not artificial intelligence, that's just an algorithm. As humans have decided on a few guidelines, we've set them up, and Prettier, the program, is just following those blindly without any intelligence involved whatsoever. And that also results in the thing we also love, same input results in the same output 100% of the time. But I do think it's an interesting question, and it's not like a smackdown. It's not actually AI code. Let me know if you think it is or not. Because it used to be that like 75% of my job, if we're talking about quarters, 3/4 of my job used to be there should be a line break here, or you should add a space here, or so do you remove this space, or why is there a trailing comma, or there should be a trailing comma. Like a lot of my job was this. I guess it goes in hand with as well, like I don't get the name of this variable or extract this method or whatnot. But a big part of my job was making the code more readable. I think that's something that the user would never see. So you having a line break or not, it's not going to matter to the user. Even if they could tell the difference between like the 1 byte or 2 bytes of the line space that you've added or didn't add, then everything's going through a minification process anyway. So in the end, the code they get would be the same, regardless of whether you've run Prettier or not. But back in the day, I did think that if you're able to see the code, it fits it has the amount of characters per line that your eyes can actually comfortably read, if it's spaced correctly, so the flow is pleasant to keep reading, you understand what's going on. I think that affects the quality of the software, because it affects the quality, how happy the developers are when they're working on a project. If everything was in the same line, then you'd be hating your life, and you wouldn't be able to actually debug any code or add any features. Everything should have been in the same line. And those small differences that Prettier eventually automated was a big part of the job. You needed to do this manually. You needed to use like a tool, spend effort to configure a tool like ESLint, or even other tools back in the day. Even ESLint, as bad, as mid as it is nowadays, it was even worse back then, and it tried to do more things on the formatting side. But I do think without Prettier, it did affect whether I enjoy working in a code space or not. So no apparent user value. The code still does the same, whether Prettier has run or not, whether it's formatted or not. But the formatting of the code, I thought it was quite important. And another interesting thing to talk about Prettier today is that there was quite a lot of pushback from people older than me, where if 3/4 of the job was looking at other people's code and saying, add a line break, or don't add a line break, or add a comma, or don't have a trailing comma, what would those people be doing if Prettier was doing this automation? Maybe the argument would be, well, as an engineer, you need to know how to format your code. It's a good skill, it's a valuable skill. I wouldn't want you to automate this with a tool like Prettier. Believe it or not, people need to be convinced that Prettier is a good idea for JavaScript projects. And I don't know. I always advocated for Prettier for one. I always said that if I could tell to an AI, make this app for me, and it made the app, great. I don't think that would make me obsolete. I would think that that would make me freer to focus on more important subjects. So maybe at that level, it would be think about the architecture of the app, or think about what users really want. Maybe it would get me out of someone's coding and more into user reviews and researches and interviews and all of that. I don't know. But if I could dependently get the machine to do my work for me, I would try to do more creative work by myself, or more meaningful work for me. I would find something. So with Prettier, since the output is always guaranteed to be the same from the input, since you can assess the quality of the tool, and we can say, all right, it's pretty good. It has some configuration options that we can adjust, but according to those options, the output will always be the same, and we can decide that people like it, it's a great tool, let's use it. There are no drawbacks, I think, to having a tool like this. Free us from the time needed to actually review the pull requests and keep saying, add an extra line break, or wrap this line on this character, or whatever else. So I think that's good and relevant, because that's the promise, I suppose, of a tool like GitHub Codespaces. The promise is that I will be telling it, build this app for me, and then it will just do it. And then I can just spend time thinking, what are the users actually clicking on, looking at the metrics, and then coming back to this assistant, I suppose, and telling it, oh, add another button and another paying plan, add another thing, remove this feature, remove this bug. I can keep telling it what to add or remove from the app, and I don't need to waste time actually building the features myself. Now, the problem with Prettier is, versus Prettier, is that Prettier is guaranteed better than I at catching every single possible place where I didn't wrap the line where I was supposed to, I added a trailing comma, or I missed a trailing comma, and whatnot. Well, the situation and the question with these tools is, will it really make an app as good as I can make an app? Or, failing that, will it make an app as good in regards to what the user is experiencing as the one that I could make, meaningfully at the same level from a practical standpoint? Would it be as easy to work with as one that I would make? I don't know. We may find out today. But if maybe you've made your decision whether Prettier output results in a artificial code or not, AI code or not, what about the TypeScript transpiler? So that's the one that every project that I work on nowadays is using. You write your code in TypeScript, a typed version, a typeset version of JavaScript, and then you run it through essentially TypeScript transpiler. or a similar tool, I suppose, maybe through Vite, and it results in code that your target browsers or environments can actually run. So sometimes I leverage TypeScript features that JavaScript itself doesn't have, and then the transpiler takes care to translate them into equivalent features in plain JavaScript. Sometimes I use features that a version of a browser doesn't support yet, and the transpiler again, or the bundler tool, is taking care to change the code into something that that version of Node or that version of that browser understands. Does that count as AI code? Maybe similarly to Prettier, the argument would be that it shouldn't count because there is no artificial intelligence factor. It's just an algorithm. It's just some instructions that say, when this happens, when you encounter this, always answer with that same output. But I don't know, let me know about your opinion. Close to that is the Svelte compiler. So that one, I think, is a bit more interesting than the TypeScript transpiler. So the Svelte compiler, supposedly, lets you write your Svelte components, your Svelte components, the templating part, the HTML part of it, the scoped styles, and the JavaScript interactive parts of them in the Svelte way that looks like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And then the compiler actually decides what you need and what you don't, the best way to make this value reactive, the events that it actually needs to subscribe and listen to, without you needing to manually do it. And in theory, the Svelte compiler can change because some genius in the Svelte team decided that if we change the compiler to actually do this when it encounters this type of code, if the user uses this rune with that rune and whatnot, then actually the resulting code should be this. If someone decides this, then the app should become more efficient without the input that I put in being any different. So my input stays the same. Someone decides that this Svelte compiler should actually do this change and produce this output, and then the users would get a more performant experience. In the end, is the output of my code, is the app, is the website that my users are going into, are they interacting with AI code? It could be the same argument again, that there is no artificial intelligence there. It's just an algorithm, and we say, if you do this, if you put in this code, you'll always get that code out. But I don't know. I would also see the argument that all of these is like AI code. But on the other side, it is true that when we say AI nowadays, we usually mean LLMs like ChatGPT and Claude and all of those, the large language models. So the question is, do you see LLM autocompletion as AI code? So I am in VS Code, my editor of choice. I start typing something, and then Visual Studio Code gives me that hint that if I press tab, then it will autocomplete the rest of this line because it figured out that I'm trying to create a little artificial delay there for like 5 seconds and whatnot. Or it figured out that I want to iterate through this list of cards and render a list item for each one, and it should have like this shadow and this whatnot. And it has created the code for me, suggests it, and if I press tab, it would actually autocomplete it. So is that LLM? We can have snippets and macros in Visual Studio Code and other editors where I can, for example, type in delay and press tab, and then that expands into a function that returns a promise and takes in milliseconds and whatnot. But that snippet is a custom snippet that I can write and say that if you're in a TypeScript file and you encounter the word delay and I press tab, then you should expand this into all of this code and put the cursor there. The LLM autocompletion is different to that because I need to configure nothing. I just need to configure maybe my GitHub account, and it will figure out what I want to put in to output in the end. So again, based on what I've typed, but it can be based on anything I've ever typed, something that I didn't need to specify beforehand that every time I type this, I want you to suggest this. And it will possibly output a more performance solution. So if I had my delay snippet and I was using like array from or whatever, and then with ES6, with new JavaScript features, I could actually spread an array. I could have like a range function, whatever. If I could return promises, if I had my delay function return promises, then maybe a newer version of this would make the delay function just be an asynchronous function, and that'd be it. But it means that it can keep itself more up to date based on more data, I guess. So maybe some people would say that this is more AI code, but maybe people would still say, well, why is it artificial intelligence? It just identifies the pattern that you've written this delay and knows from other people that have written this code delay that when you write this, usually what the next lines are this thing, an arrow function that returns a promise that resolves in like 5 seconds or whatever. So is it intelligence or is it just pattern recognition? Is it more pattern recognition than what the Svelte compiler and the Typescript transpiler and Viten of all those bundlers or even Prettier is doing? I don't know. Up for debate. And kind of finally, we have the LLM chat answer. So you go to ChatGPT or you go to Claude, or you're using an editor like Cursor that has Claude built in, or a more modern version of VS Code. Anyway, you are in there and you ask, how do I add a shader to this axe to make it look like a spectral axe? And then it answers, oh, you can do this and write in this GD shader file, all of this thing. And if you paste it in, you'll find whether it works or not. But the moment you copy paste the answer of the LLM, is that AI code? Again, much like the autocompletion, the thing that it suggests is mostly based on pattern recognition, that it managed to identify from your question that you're looking for this thing that it has encountered in other code spaces, in other repositories, in other code in GitHub and whatnot. And it may satisfy your requirements. But is it intelligent? It's not. I don't know. There is an argument to be had there. And finally, we have Vercells v0 and Bolt from the StackBlitz team as well, in which similarly you can say, oh, I want a Canva and Trello style app that is meant to prioritize my film habits, the movies that I want to see. I don't know, whatever, my gaming habits. And you describe it here, and then it will give you the code that you should paste into your app or bring into your app, or have it running next to a dedicated environment in your app in the case of Bolt and in the case of GitHub Codespaces. So is that AI? Again, the arguments are the same. Let me know what you think. I suspect when Sander is saying that a quarter of all new code at Google is generated by AI, so when Sander says this part, I don't suspect it's any of these, because you could make an argument that 100% of the code is going to be AI. But I strongly suspect that most of it is going to be this. That when anyone says 25% of new code is LLM, it usually is AI. It usually means LLM autocompletion, which I guess I do have Gainzatron here. And I could just create or go into any TypeScript file. And what I mean is if I just say delay here, like immediately you can see grayed out, it suggests this. And I press tab, bang. And it was actually kind of bang on. But I typed this, and then the LLM suggested this part. So maybe like, you know, it was 80% of the code suggested by the LLM. But did the LLM make this code? Did it identify that lots of people have this line and then stole, it was inspired by the code that the other people put after this line and suggested it to me so I could tab and autocomplete? I don't know. Maybe a bit of a philosophical argument there as well. But in any case, I suspect that when people say 20% of the code is AI, they actually mean this, that they start typing something and the AI integration, GitHub Copilot in this case, is suggesting what should go next. If they press tab, then that's code generated by AI. Again, I don't know what they mean because they don't say in a context, they just say 1/4 of the code. But I suspect this is what they mean. And usually, like when it comes to a method that's like the delay method here, there is a lot of body of work. There's lots of people trying to delay stuff in JavaScript. So the output is going to be good. The output is going to be code that works. What happens if there is like a little typo in there? What if it's like a regex that wants to do something slightly different that I don't quite understand, and then the app behaves in an unexpected way and I have to go all the way back to what I auto-completed like 1 hour ago and find out that I made a typo there because I just accepted the auto-completion that didn't do quite what I wanted. Did that in the end save me time or cost me time? How much of that code that I needed to debug in the end was mine? How much was it LLM output? How much belonged to other engineers that just happened to upload their code on GitHub? I don't know. But I think this is it for most of the theory. And we'll take a little sip because I've been talking for like 20 minutes. How I work with LLMs, you see me coding every week, sometimes twice a week here. I think you have noticed that I do make use of the autocomplete feature. If I see a suggestion, I will quickly try to scan what it says and will complete. I love that feature. I do use it all the time. Dare I say 25% of the code is autocompletion? I don't know. I wouldn't make up a number like that. But I do use it the most often. Sometimes you will see me go into the Copilot chat. And usually that's for things where I don't really know that well, or that I don't want to bother looking into too much, which includes things like regex, regular expressions, or even SQL, or even like GitHub Actions, something like that, something that's not Typescript, something that's not React or Svelte. On those subjects, even though I have managed to accumulate some knowledge over 20 years, I've never had a passion to actually know the ins and outs of it. And if I see a shortcut there, I will take it. So instead of like needing to do like email regex and actually figure out what it needs to be, then I will autocomplete this. And will this be actually adhering to the email spec? Like, would it allow domains like this, like just one character before? I don't know. Will it allow domains that have one character only? I don't know. Will it allow this? Like, I don't know the ins and outs of what an email address should include or not as per the spec. I don't know regex that well to know, oh, this is a look ahead, this is like the end of the thing, this is the first capture group, this is another capture group, and whatnot. But I do know that I want something to validate whether something is actually an email and move on with my life. So I will take the suggestion from the LLM and move on with my life, indeed, until proven otherwise. That's where meaningful tests come in clutch, especially for those situations where trying to understand what this regex is. Like, you know, I kind of get it. I can see the @ sign here. So it's like, oh, at least one character of this or more characters than one. Greedily add characters until the @ and then greedily add the characters until like the escaped dot here. I kind of get it, but do I really want to spend time actually getting it? Not really. I'd rather have a test that checks whether a valid email address is valid an invalid email thing that's supposed to be an email address is not actually an email address is valid. And then if I actually decide to refactor this, the way that I validate whether something is an email address or not, and the user sees like an error or not, I can do it with confidence because I have a test that says, oh yeah, the user is getting alerted that they've put in by mistake something that is not an email address or whatever, without me specifically testing is this regex correct or not. Similarly with SQL, sometimes if I need to do a direct query to an SQL database, I will use an AI because I think there is tons of body of work when it comes to SQL. And therefore, the LLMs are better at answering my queries than I am. I would really need to think about, oh, inner join this, inner join that, group by, I also want to aggregate. All of those things have been done for 20 years. And there is a lot of body of work. So the LLM is more likely to generate an output that will produce the result that I want before I actually think and create a SQL query myself. And if it's a select query, then it's quite easy for me to actually paste in the output and validate this is true, this is not. If it's close enough, I can actually get into the code and say, oh, you needed to also add this column or inner join there or whatever. Or do the chat approach and actually say, you didn't account for this, please also add this column, add this as a sum, whatever. The problem there is that I do find GitHub Copilot especially has been getting worse for the past couple of years. So I was into early access on GitHub Copilot as well, and I found it quite good. The autocompletion is quite similarly pretty good, but the chat functionality I think has been getting worse and worse. I think the knowledge level has remained at the junior level, but it has the confidence of like a senior engineer. And unlike the best juniors, it has no capacity to learn and doubles down on things and will not take the hint and therefore will not be able to help me. So if I tell it, actually, I'm using SQLite, not MySQL, so this is not available, this is available, I need to do something like this, it will just keep going in circles, suggesting the same thing over and over again, even more than it did 2 years ago. So I don't know, maybe the costs to actually run the LLMs are getting too high, maybe the funding is getting lower for those things, but I think the quality has degraded there. Although I know that people that are using Claude quite a lot find that it's pretty good for subjects like that. But I'm talking about my personal experience. I have used Claude a little bit. I did find it a bit better when I was doing GDScript stuff with the Godot game engine. I found it better than both ChatGPT and GitHub Copilot, but I can't personally attest to TypeScript use and SQL and SQLite use and that sort of thing. So just to recap of how I work with them: autocomplete, I use them a lot. The chat style functionality, if it's on a subject where I don't know a lot about, then I will be maybe a bit more eager to use it. And the question is, do I use it more in subjects that I don't know that well? Because its quality, the LLM quality, the answer quality is the same. I'm just oblivious. It's just ignorance is bliss. So I'm like, oh yeah, this select looks good, but actually it's bad. Like this shader looks great, but actually it's the least performant thing in the world. And 2 years down the line, when the game is close to being done, I'll find that it drops frames and there is no hope anymore. I don't know. It could be that. It could be that the quality is the same, is mid all around, but it just happens that in the subjects where I am an expert in, I am able to spot the mistakes, and in the subjects where I'm not, I just let them go. But I do suspect that there are tons of subjects that do have a lot of body of work that are unchanging, are mature, let's say, and have been stable for quite a few years. And for those, LLMs seem to be able to produce higher quality answers. So SQL has been around for a while, hasn't changed much. It does make sense that if I'm talking about specific SQLite things, maybe it will have more about MySQL. Maybe it will have less on Postgres because fewer people write about Postgres, even though they've been using it a lot. I don't know. Hello, Stormchaser. You've been doing some LLM work in a couple of weeks, so this should help, hopefully. Everyone is doing LLM. Today we're doing the GitHub Codespaces style of LLM. So we'll be making the LLM do the work for us. Let's see how it pans out. Right, so for subjects where there is a lot of body of work, I find the quality of the answers better. Could be because my expertise is lower or non-existent, so I'm just oblivious to the fact and keep going on with my life, even though I am committing bad code. I don't know. There is a huge warning when it comes to TypeScript and JavaScript. JavaScript is a super fast evolving language that was never mature, and maybe one day it will be mature, but it's not today. But because there is so much body of work with older versions of JavaScript, so much jQuery solutions and stuff, it's very likely that the LLM will suggest something that's actually now an anti-pattern as we learn better. And when it comes to frameworks, it will have tons of body of work with React, which is good because lots of good apps are made in React, and React is a more mature framework that you can use with confidence. But what if you want to use a better framework? Now, what if you want to use Svelte or SvelteKit? SvelteKit is quite different to Supper, and I have had the LLMs actually suggest solutions regarding Supper, which was, I guess, maybe the proto SvelteKit by Ritz Harris. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. It's something that was a thing like 3 years ago, and it hasn't been a thing of 2 years, but there is some Stack Overflow questions and answers about Supper. There was the Supper docs. So some LLMs are trained on that and may suggest a solution that only works on Supper, which is not a thing that you'll ever encounter. More recently, Svelte 5 officially released with runes. Before, we didn't have runes. We have very different ways to declare reactive values and do side effects and stuff. And that's the prime case where the LLM doesn't know what runes are. It's just too fresh. They're over the cutoff point. Not many apps are in runes. Only my apps are in runes. No, definitely not. So I don't know. Maybe in a year, if we keep training the LLMs into 100-byte content, they will be amazing. But for now, if you are working on a Svelte 5 app, it is very likely that it will suggest a solution that is actually Svelte 4 and below. So it won't have runes and it doesn't quite understand how to use them. So it won't be that much help there. And because of how JavaScript works, I will always say that I prefer doing things on the server with the meta frameworks that we have. This includes working with Next.js as well as SvelteKit. I'd rather do stuff on the server with server actions or whatever you want to call them. That's something that the LLMs will not be willing to do for many, many years, because JavaScript means I'm doing whatever on the client. There is too much stuff, too many questions on Stack Overflow and the internet in general of how to hack your way into doing something on the client in a way that you shouldn't, that it will always overwhelm, and that will always be the suggested thing that you get. So be aware of that the quality of the LLM answer depends on the subject matter. If it's something that changes quickly or something that's recently changed, you may get a bad result. Another thing I've noticed is that when I include a possible answer in the question, it will suggest it. It tries to agree with me, I guess. I don't know if it's programmed to be more agreeable or something, but it always validates my opinion. So if I ask the same essential question, but say, should I do it with X? It will say, oh yeah, this will make it like more performant or whatever. But if I ask the same question, including should I do it with Y, then it will say, oh yeah, this will make it more performant and whatnot, the same reasons. It will find some way to agree with me. Well, sometimes I want to know which is the best approach nowadays, like 2024 going into 2025. what is the best one? Just tell me. I want to follow the standard. I want to follow the best practice, and I just want to do that. And it will just not know because it will have stale information from months or years ago. And the popular approaches that it's mostly trained on are not necessarily the best approaches for what's happening today. And I will say again, the biggest problem with me is that it will never just say, I don't know, I will look it up on the internet and, at the end of the day, I will come back to you with the best answer, which is something that a junior would do. Something that juniors or even seniors that I work with, or even myself, even, they do all the time. It's like, oh, I don't know this at the moment. I don't know how to set up this GitHub Action to deploy to Kubernetes, like 4 replicas or whatnot. Like, I will look it up, and then in the afternoon, let's catch up and I'll have it done. LLMs refuse to do this. They need to have an answer immediately so you can interact with it and give it a thumbs up or thumbs down. I don't know what the success metrics of the people working on those tools are, but it's not acceptable for the tool to say, oh, give me 4 hours and I'll know the answer. So yeah, their unwillingness to say, I don't know, and the impossibility of them just saying, I will look it up for 4 hours and come back to you and give you the best answer, does make me think that there may be some limit in this way to go. But hey, who knows? I have used V0 a little bit, which is a slightly more complicated way to do the chat thing of, oh, I want to do this in my app, and then it will actually create even multiple files of components for me. It will be able to see a screenshot and try to develop according to this. Bold News similarly, and GitHub Codespaces as well. Let's see how they do, but my expectations are low. We'll find out today. So, what to expect from Codespaces? Let's not forget the big things that they do actually market. The fast onboarding and coding from anywhere. Do they actually have it here? Code from any device. This is huge. They say iPad here, but come on, I want to code from my phone. I have a good friend that we've been discussing over this for years. Like if we travel the world and we want to add a feature to an app or try out a new app because we had a conversation in a pub or something, and there was some interest and we sparked some new idea. We don't want to wait for the vacation to be over, and we don't necessarily want to spend too much time during our vacation doing this, but it would be absolutely amazing if we could just describe, I want this feature to trial it, and be able to have some little interaction with our phone and have a version of the code live for us to preview, which is what they claim we can do here. So I'm super excited about this. I think it's gonna work all right. I guess my biggest excitement is this, the environments, and be able to see the environments from anywhere. So we'll see how it goes. My expectations are quite low on the code quality. I think the solutions will be bad. And if they work, I'll be very pleasantly surprised. Like even if the code is bad, if you actually get the functionality out of it, fair enough. I'll be pleasantly surprised, but I don't think we'll see it today. All right. 40 minutes of me rambling. We will keep it hands off and start with asking the AI to make a new monorepo. So I have 2 ideas for an app for today. I'm thinking either a music playlist sort of app. So we would be like, I have a workout coming up. It's going to be 45 minutes and I want this type of music, or I want to hit this tempo, and just fill it up with songs that I like. So that sort of app, like music playlist creation app, which I'm sure Spotify and Apple Music is doing anyway. But I think would be fun. Or a tarot reading type of app, which I've never done before. But I had a friend over the other day, and they were discussing how they're using ChatGPT to do tarot readings. And I'm like, this is perfect. This is a perfect use case of ChatGPT, because there is no scientifically good way to do a tarot reading, because it's all, let's say, scientifically dubious. It's all made up. Anyway, I'm sure there's like rules they need to follow, but you know, who knows what they are. And therefore, the sometimes hallucinated and made up output from an LLM is all right. Maybe it's gonna make you happy anyway. So maybe that's the app that I would like to build, the tarot reading app. I think that's like an amazing use case for an LLM when it's not like, you know, telehealth type of app where you make a wrong diagnosis and then you're really in trouble. Someone may be seriously unhealthy because of it. It's not like a flight tracking, flight landing type of app where you make a mistake and the plane crashes. It's just, you know, tarot reading. It's not really real anyway. Just say whatever. It's fine. So very low stakes. I suspect very high demand for something like this. Feel free, if we don't do this today, to borrow this idea and make it your own. Panskar says, too much rambling. The other episodes we go to the code immediately, so apologies for this. Let's just make it work. Fair enough. We'll go to the playlist creation one. And what do we have here? I have opened this actually to the phone, on my phone, and it actually works and looks the same. It suggests to use a couple templates, a blank template, a React template, a Jupyter notebook, a .NET app. None of them are monorepos, and I cannot at the moment add them to an existing repo that I have, which is quite interesting. It's something that they want to add in the future, but I couldn't say in the Gainzatron app actually bring in GitHub Codespaces. That's interesting. They don't have an example for a monorepo, so I will give it a try, but if it doesn't do well, I will just say create the SvelteKit app for this idea. I don't want to hold it against them that I try to make something more complicated. Right. Oh, here they do so something. I can bring in it to a new one. Interesting. But not this one, which is in which is a private organization, I suppose. Interesting. So that's contrary to what the docs were saying. Let's try to create a new repository here then. See if we'll find it. Keep it here, not at the organization. Let's call it Harmony. Let's say, I don't know if it would actually read the description there. Playlist creation app powered by AI. Create it. Start coding with Codespaces. Press the button here. All right, so it opens the embedded version of Visual Studio Code. And it's got a terminal here. It is VS Code. It does say use the command palette a lot. Great. And edit the app. Great. So it did read the description of the app to create the README. That's something. And the title of the app. Sure. Default image. It has runtimes for Python, Node, blah, blah, blah. Great. All good. So what's next? How do I make it? How do I make it run the feature for me? Do I just raise an issue? Is that the PR? Is that the environment? Interesting. All right, so that's the same window. I don't want it here. I want to see, like, it has my account, it has my plugins, I suppose. It has my extensions, does it? But the question is, initial commit just has the readme, sure. The question is, new issue. Let's see if we have anything new in the code in here. If I try to create the issue here, will it suggest creating a pull request for me? Let's see. So set up a monorepo. Using turbo repo. So scaffold this code space. Use as monorepo. So I will want the web app. The API, it's going to be Hono.js app. And iOS, SwiftUI app. I need to create app skeletons, just set up the monorepo for me. Submit this issue. You can open it in a workspace, but how do I ask it to just do it for us? So it gives this by the side. All right, so here we go. It has this on the left and has this brainstorm tab. And it's saying, is the monorepo set up with turbo repo, including the apps directory, blah, blah, blah. Current behavior, no evidence of monorepo setup. Indeed, it's fresh, no apps directory, no web API, iOS directories, great. Proposed solution, yes, the monorepo is now set up with turbo repo. I guess after we've done this PR, then that's that's the acceptance criteria. Yeah, all right. So it's not proposed solution. This is the code to make it happen. This is the acceptance criteria, I suppose. And it has some questions for me, which I guess pre-fill it here. Should I use PNPM or NPM or yarn? Great. Generate plan. Right. It's adding a packet JSON, adding scripts for running the different apps, a turbo JSON. Great. It is saying create a directory. And some commands for me to run, I suppose, and I can play this button here. Sure. How can I update the instructions to say that I want to use PNPM, for example, for this? Should I say create app skeletons? Use PNPM as the package manager. Great, update the plan. The commands are now different. Let's run it. Init does y is like yes to everything, I guess. Do the defaults. Unknown option y. Maybe that's an npm thing, but not the one that does work with PNPM. All right, it created something. Afterwards, if I add turbo, that's gonna be good, but I still need, for example, PNPM workspaces YAML file or whatever that is. There is a related configuration file there. So we've added a package JSON. Doesn't really have any scripts. And we don't have the PNPM workspaces thing. If I select this, add package JSON. I guess I should manually say add a PNPM workspaces configuration file. And run turbo tasks for dev and test. I pressed update selected files. What will it actually do? Oof, kind of merge conflict. I think we all hate. So the workspace configuration is inside package.json, but with PNPM, that's not how you should do it. Or indeed, that's not how it's done. So I don't like that change. Should I have like a new item here? Let's open PNPM manually. We need to tell it to create a PNPM workspace YAML. How do we do that? So I think my description was right. I don't know. Maybe you can tell me if it were. Therefore, here it's saying to add PNPM as a dependency, which is not correct. Also not correct. So this not correct with PNPM. The interesting thing to what I said before, there is a lot of audio work regarding NPM, less audio work with PNPM, but it's the agreed best solution nowadays. But you won't find, you will see the LLMs being worse with PNPM since it has less data on it. So we definitely don't want that. Delete. And this is correct. All right, so can I create this? Let's pretend that we've done it. Can we mark as done? Guess not really. Update selected files. Will it keep going? Let's see. All right, so it created the PNPM workspace thing. It created the package.json thingy. It didn't create the turbo.json, this one. Did it? It's showing only a few files. So these look fine, I guess. How do I see other files? There is a turbo.json. There is an underline here. No one knows why. What's the problem? So is that not a real thing? turborepo.org? Yeah, it's turbo.build. You made the other one up. And let's do the bit version. Oh, but interestingly, even this one, it says that it's not really a thing. No schema request service available. Oh well, who knows. And it added a dev, although it didn't add the recommended options here, which is to say that it's a persistent task. It's a persistent task. So should we paste it here? And you should never cast it. It added a build step with an outputs directory, correct? It says that it builds on every other build step. I don't think we need that. And the test one, who knows? Because we don't actually have any tests here. But I think we need nothing. Just need it to run. So empty object will do here. Global dependencies, it added any package.json. If any package.json changes, then we want this to run. I don't know, that doesn't make sense. And what else did it add? Global outputs, global env, are those real things? I think global env is a real thing, which we won't use yet. Global outputs, is that a real thing? Maybe not. No result here, so not looking good. And then it has the project specified here, which we don't need, surely. So yeah, these things I don't think we need. And so we've added this. We have something. We don't have a git ignore. And we do need a package manager field. Right. So that's something that Turbo needs, but it didn't add. How do I know what's the version of PNPM here? Yes, around PNPM v 911. Sure. Yeah, so just copy that one. Or let's see if the autocomplete happens. Almost. So PNPM 911.0 is what I got here. Would have been nice if it knew. Also added a trailing comma that we don't want. And added a license as well, sure. Author doesn't know who I am. Fair enough. Keywords doesn't know anything. Main, no. It didn't add the description from the README. Monorepo for playlist generation software. Good. Right, so git ignore, something it didn't do. Anything else? I guess then, now we can run the tasks if they exist. And I think with Turbo Repo, it's common to prefix them with a namespace, so I like adding @repo web. And they're going straight for version 1, so brave. But it doesn't matter because it's not an npm package. Right, so how do I create like a new plan? So what happens if I pnpm install all 4 workspace projects? Is the monorepo itself a project, I guess? And if I pnpm dev, found pipeline field instead of tasks. So again, this was a refactor with Turbo Repo. Now they want tasks, not pipeline. It happens. Helpful that I can at least see the error. So this should be tasks. And try again. All right, so it didn't find any dev commands, but that's fine. It looked at these 3 packages. Same for test, same for build. But, oops. Do I want a build command? Maybe not. Actually, thinking about this. We can, it has the outputs thing. Right, so let's add the build command. Let's add the build command. All right, so it has the 3 tasks that we want. It kind of checked things out here correctly. I think that means it is set up as a monorepo, and it's mission accomplished for that. Forgot to type some here, but that's fine. So the question is, with this PR, How much work did the LLM do and how much did I do? Because we needed to change like the whole of turbo.json, like the lots of things we did need to change. And we still forgot the git ignore. So can I specify? What can I specify? Here. Oh, that's the file name. Right, so I specify here, create, and make sure to add cool. So let's implement selected file, which is just that one. And it only has the turbo directory. Okay. Should I say anything else? Guess not. I guess not. We'll find them out. And yet, is that how you do git ignores? Yeah, dot git ignore the root, and yes, this one, why is it not ignored? Let's run one of the commands again. It didn't add them now, so that's interesting. Now that the git ignore was there, maybe that's all it needed. All right. So no more brainstorming. I think that's it. Good. Generate the description. Fixes this issue. Sure. Create pull request. Beautiful. Open GitHub. And then we can see what we've done. Git ignore indeed. 3 new apps, package.json and nothing. And the turbo.json PNPM workspace to do the workspace configuration. Most of this stuff we need to do ourselves. But hey, it looks good. Rebase and merge. So try the new merge experience. Well, right. Would I be able to do this on my phone? I'd say no, because it had outdated information on a lot of the configuration files. So it didn't quite work there. And automatically delete head branches, this should be default. Don't want wikis, we do want issues, preserve it, but not projects, nah. And just to, doesn't matter. Cool, we have this. I guess the next step would be to ask it to create a SvelteKit app. So how big do we want this to be? Create a chapter here. Would it be able to do it? I don't think so. I think you should be going with a SvelteKit wizard here, but let's see. Let's see, maybe it will suggest this around the SvelteKit wizard. Scaffold SvelteKit app. Yeah, and let's say scaffold bare bones. Say SvelteKit v2 using Svelte 5 runes. What will that do? That's all I want, no real functionality here. And if I say open in workspace, it will brainstorm. Current behavior, there is no Svelte app. The repository contains a monorepo with apps API, iOS, web. None of these have this. No SvelteKit or Svelte 5 dependencies, blah, blah, blah. When the solution is done, there is a SvelteKit v2 app, a new directory. That's not a new directory. So yeah, these are things that as a PM, like I wouldn't even ask about. Like, does the package.json list Svelte 5? Like, you never ask for this. But let's say Workspaces itself is a persistent web app, interestingly enough. I did install it on my phone. Seems like it works. So now it planned a few things. So in apps web, it added SvelteKit as a dependency and specifically the adapter static, interesting. It created the Svelte config. It created page, the app HTML, blah, 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 and the root layout. Interesting. And should I do it like that? Or should I run the SvelteKit wizard is the question. Can I trash all changes if needed? The SvelteKit wizard will provide something better for us. So I think a takeover makes sense here. And I guess we just need to do it. What if I say, use the SvelteKit wizard, SvelteKit CLI, Svelte CLI, Sv. This one. Use Sv, the SvelteKit CLI. So the blog post and this tool is like a month old. So no chance it actually knows where it is. Hey son, thank you for subscribing, for the rambling. You need to ramble. Use Sv. Should I start like this? So it will still try to create some files for us, which is fair enough. It's just that the SvelteKit wizard will surely have a better version. And I don't want to go into troubles like the turbo repo turbo.json file looking like it's correct, but it's not actually correct. So can I switch to the terminal here and see what we got? We've gone through this before, so let's try to do it fast. CLI, docs, CLI, go, create. This is the one we want. Oh, guess the minimal one. Okay, we'll go through it. Give me the terminal. Go into the apps directory. Create web. Will it ask me whether it's alright to overwrite the directory? Run the CLI, sure. Directory not empty, continue, yes. The minimal version, TypeScript. Let's say prettier. Say vtest and Playwright and Tailwind. And that's it for now. Tailwind has plugins. Let's add them all, why not? PNPM. All right, so it didn't create a Git repository for us, which is good. It did create a SvelteKit app. It did change the package.json of our web app quite a lot. Quite a lot of things here. And it includes prettier, which I guess I'll try to bring into the top level quickly. And interestingly, it has like a lot of the Tailwind stuff as dependencies, not dev dependencies, which I don't understand. Therefore, I'm gonna remove this. Right. So if there's ever been a dev dependency, this is it. All right. So I guess I can open this in VS Code somehow. Let's see. Open in VS Code. Open. There is an extension I need to install. I need to sign in. I need to allow stuff. Continue. Authorize. Passwords. What's happening? GitHub one-time password. It's this new icon here. Clone, but where will it clone it? It will ask me. Great. Good. And I wonder. Will it create another directory here? Who knows? Open it. No. All right, so we've opened this workspace in VS Code, and like for this step, I suppose I do need my editor, don't I? It's like too complicated. This temporary file, who knows what it is? No one knows what it is. Feels important. But in the apps directory is all the SvelteKit stuff that the wizard created for us. And we also have the prettier stuff, which I wanted to bring out all the way here. Because the formatting, I just want it on this level. But that means that even the prettier stuff, I want them on this level. And none of these are installed, I guess here. This session, the update's working, so if I go back to the top level, it's thinking more. Auto-generated CI/CD would be nice. Yes, so this is the agenda for today, but it's deeper in the agenda. I don't know if we'll make it that far. It's after the SwiftUI app, I think. So who knows if we'll make it that far. But it's definitely one of those things where, you know, I'm not a particular expert. So having the AI do stuff for me would be awesome. So did we manage to crash it? I think so. Turn it off and back on again. Ah, it didn't really close it. It only pretended to close it. Whoops. All right, so I have opinions of how to make SvelteKit apps for better or for worse. So let's see. I go in there, pim install. No package.json here. That's crazy. Ah, so it actually nested it in deeper. Afraid of this, but hey, now we know. PNPMI here. Some notices about some changes being too big. Oh well. A session thing will try to happen, sure. So the thing it didn't do before is ignore node modules, which is crazy. The wizard created a nice git ignore for us. Copy that one. Hey Mike, weekend has been great. How was your weekend? Hope it was fun. So, OS stuff, who cares? Put Turbo repo here. Google Vertex API, no. What's that about? Let me know all about it. So it doesn't need trailing slashes, starting slashes for this. Anywhere we want to ignore them. Right, so that like this thing, I still don't know what it is. I assume it is for like authentication or something, so you can log into the session and not something you should be committing. Even though it does say it's been updated. Has it been updated? I don't know. I'm gonna remove it and see if anything breaks. That's how I usually live my life. And trailing comma is 5. Bracket space and false. Semi-true. Nope. Jokes. And some plugins here. npmi. Again. npm format. Great. And while we're at it, pnp map to upgrade dependencies. Did that do anything? Who knows? You can push changes at any time if you want to keep them. I want to keep them. Push them. Did it not create a brand for us? I'm not sure. Push straight to main. Oh, I unfocused and it pushed me out. Unfortunate. Anyway. I think this should be on this level. README, I don't know, Harmony Web. SvelteKit implementation. You're already a software engineer, Mike. What are you talking about? Who is gatekeeping you? Let me at him. That can learn things easy and fast. Well, anything else? Learning is part of the fun. And LLMs never learn. I think that's their biggest limitation. If I opened the episode rambling about this, that the problem is that when they don't know something, they don't say, I don't know, let me look it up for like one day and come back to you. They just say, oh, it's this answer, and it's completely wrong. But we as humans have the easy capability to be humble and say, I don't really know, let me look this up. And then you go, you do your research, and you come back, and you're an ace. And it feels awesome. This should go here. This could ignore. I guess we don't need. And there is the Playwright config that I don't like that this makes. But, hey, don't specify this. This should be the test directory. But I won't do too much regarding this. The important thing is, so now, wait a minute. What do we have here? It has like a couple tests to run, which I don't like. Let's say that the regular tests are these and the unit tests are these. Lint, did I say setup? Lint? No, don't want this. So, PNPMI again, PNPM format, PNPM dev, SvelteKit app is running. All right, we have the skeleton thing, there is some tailwind, good. No layout file. There is a layout file. Great. Svelte 5, didn't even ask. Beautiful. Anything else I commonly change? Ah, no favicon. How do you have no favicon? So if I PNPM test, it should run Playwright with like the demo tests. Cannot redefine property, it says. That's crazy. Yeah, that's not what I expected. If I go to the web level and say PNPM test there, what's that about? Anything else weird on this level? Ah, it's trying to run the Vitess test as well. Sure. So where I said in the Playwright config, which I don't like the test here should be this. Will it run? Will it blend? All right. Let's see the one test that it had for us. Ah, it does go to the Roto website. Great. Let's send this to get by role heading level 1. I prefer those locators. I mean, I don't know if it's like tsconfig problems here. But it doesn't seem too happy with them. But it is working. So, yeah, I don't know what's the problem here. And I assume that in this config, we are setting module ESNext. It's that this doesn't know what this is, I guess. Oh well. We have a running app. I think this means that we're good. This part of the spec is updated. But what do we do? How do we synchronize the session? I have no idea. Oh, it has a session here. Do I just add stuff and push? Do I just commit normally? So scaffold this, great. Push. Changes autosync commit will be ignored because it automatically pushes them to GitHub Copilot workspace. Right? Push changes into branch. Mark session as complete. Sure. I see it added like a million files. Just cheekily added like a few things in the end. What was that about? Let's have our app running here. This is starting to look like normal development. What's that about? And what are you? Dev server. Went too far out. Do I find no use for the V-test? I find use for V-test for sure. In real life, a bit more use for V-test as well. It's for the unit test, I guess. It's for testing very specific functionality and edge cases in modules that are going to be used by more components. I do try to do more integration style tests with everything, but when it comes to testing edge cases and when it comes to something that is going to be used by many components, that's when I will reach with V-test tests because they are super fast. And I guess that's it. It's because they're super fast. An example of this would be a date formatter or a currency formatter or something like that. I would have a helper method for this that I would be testing with vtest. Or I talked about the email regex example before. So if I have a regex that I don't quite understand, I don't need to understand it. I just need to have tests that say, all right, this is accepted, this is rejected, all of that. I will use vtest for that, and then use that helper method in any other component and assume that since it's using that, the dates are going to be formatted as I want them. Maybe in the happy path of the Playwright test, I would say I can see the date or something, and then I will be looking on whether the date exists. But it's going to be the vtest test that actually checks if the format is the one I expect, or for currency, more importantly, that would be the one that checks like, oh, the client really wants for the dashboard to say 1.1 million, but also wants to say 1.12 thousands and stuff. So that's for the edge case and specific, like the unit level. I would also use vtest to test specific implementations with third parties. So often I will mock this with mock service worker, but it doesn't really matter If I have something that needs to use Stripe, for example, or any third party, I may have a Vitess test that actually confirms I'm hitting this API with this parameter. Because there would be no browser interaction needed there. So if I may have a method that checks that a user made a payment through Stripe, I will have my interface or my implementation, my Stripe implementation of an interface that is attempted to hit the Stripe API to make this purchase happen or get like a payment link or whatever it does. That would be intercepted by mock service worker with some mock output in order to not charge people money all the time or use like test cards. But anyway, that's by the by. It's the Vitess test that would be ensuring that I get a payment link there. I'll need to think about this more, but to make a better example for this. But I will sometimes test these sorts of classes that you've seen me do of specific implementations in Vitess, because there are many edge cases there, potentially, like for error cases, for example. So I'm trying to hit this backend. Sometimes it errors out. What do? Sometimes I will have the browser test that confirms that the user saw a toast that said, please try again later. But very often when it's like many specific error cases, I will have the Vitess test that can run very fast, that actually tests for everything. Because I can have one generic error case for a user journey, but Playwright will need a few seconds to run this. So I cannot have 10 because that's 20 seconds. And if you have this for every feature, then it's gonna mean that your end-to-end tests take 2 hours to run. But Vitess can easily run all your 10 error cases in like milliseconds. So that's the other place where I use Vitess. There's definitely the Vitess. There is definitely a place for Vitess. Which is why I added and why I didn't add EaseLint, for example. I'm growing out of favor of in Svelte project. Right, so what were we doing there? I was just checking if I can actually see the app. I can. So no light or dark mode. This is looking like regular development. So I'm wondering, did this update with everything or anything? I think so. All right. So it even has this, yeah, it has everything. So you can create a pull request, generate a description. Let's see what it says. Fixes issue number 3. Is it issue number 3? I guess so. I guess we had the issue, then we had the pull request to fix the first issue, and now we have the third issue. And the fourth, number 4, is the pull request. Sure. Open in GitHub, great. Can I see the app running in a Codespace session? Terminal not connected, it says. So if I say here pnpm dev, pnpm not found, interesting. It is saying that it's running more commands here. So let's see. It didn't add the dependency by default. Yes, fair enough. Pnpm dev now. All right, so it says localhost this. Like, how do I visit this? Surely that's a feature that this has. This is a long-running task. Ah, there you go. Is it this? So let's kill this. On the output, let's say pnpm test is my test command, and pm start, dev, the start command. And I can run this command. Will it know that I want to visit this link? It will run forever, mate. Ah, preview. There you go. Connecting the forwarded port. All right, so that's pretty sweet. You can see the port here in the URL. Quite fun. I wonder if you would be able to visit this link without authenticating with GitHub or anything. I'm sure there is a way to share this. But I also wonder, like, would this just work with this random hash here? But that's pretty cool. I wonder if this will be valid so long as this command is running. I guess. But it's cool. We can see that the app is working, so we can go back to the pull request and merge. And what did we say? We add SvelteKit dependencies, configure SvelteKit, create basic SvelteKit structure, Vite configuration, Tailwind, Playwright, and updated some stuff in the monorepo to integrate the SvelteKit app. More details, open this session. Sure. All right, so that's fun. And issues should be automatically closed. Great. I closed that window. Did this kill this app? No? Great. Next step. So I did do SvelteKit. Let's see if it can do Hono.js. New issue. And I think it has like a Cloudflare solution here. Cloudflare workers and pages. Oops. To scaffold our so let's see how this goes. Open in workspace. One inactive URL. So I linked this in the description. You can find it here. It says inactive. Like, I don't know if I can tell it. Read the instructions there. Make it happen. And it's claiming update the package JSON, create an API index JS. Can I edit this? Sure. Source index. And it's claiming that you need a wrangler, Tom. Whoa. Whoa, whoa, whoa. And in reality, will we just do the wizard again? I guess. Then you can just deploy it. All right, we will need the Wrangle toml if we want to use some Cloudflare features like the D1, the SQLite solution, or the key value store, and all of that. But we won't, so we don't need it. We don't need it just yet. Blah, blah, blah. Too much. Too much information. Generate the plan here. Let's see what it puts out. I think we'll run the wizard again quickly, and then we'll move on to asking it to do some UI in Svelte. That may be more fun. So it's planning to do some stuff here, which I guess we'll just ignore. So how do I move this to VS Code? Just because when there is a wizard, I can only assume that the wizard is going to do the latest up-to-date thing, but the LLM will not. Oh, but I can ask it questions in line. Hello, Storm Chaser. How are you doing? And it has the plan here, and I can even ask it to implement in line. However, I will not, because what I will actually do is follow the docs, which say, just do this. Let's see. So wrong window here, and put it in the API directory, and use Cloudflare pages, please. Install the dependencies, use pnpm. Let's override the folder, yes. Let's see what we got. So it has a packet JSON. Where did it put it? Oh, I wasn't far enough in. Sorry, we'll need to do it again. So in the apps directory, I want to create this, Cloudflare pages, not empty directory. Thank you for checking. Install the directory, set dependencies, use pnpm. Great. Let's see if we get a Hello World app in return. Right, refresh. pnpm lock has changed, that's fine. Git ignore it added with quite a lot of things. We may need to amend this. Packet JSON with a single dependency, readme, and all of that stuff. All right, quick break, and we'll see our API, and we'll do some UI right after. Hang on. Hanging on. We're back. Oof, instead of raising the music, I removed the music. Whoops. Hope you sit around. So we've been doing a lot of hands-on code here. So I will try to quickly create the API and move on to asking the chat. Hello, Mal. Yes, a little break today. I had promised that if I do get in the developer preview for GitHub Codespaces, I'll do a special episode on it. So here we are today. We'll be back to Gainzatron, although good chance to catch up, I would say. All right. So here we are. I think we're about this. This is still running, interestingly enough. So since we're using the wizards of these frameworks that we've chosen, we haven't done a lot of actually using the LLM features. That's why the next chapter is going to be about some UI. See how that helpful that is. But first, let's confirm that our API is working, set up correctly. TSX, so just to troll us, it has some JSX here as the example, not just a hello world. I've never seen this of a mostly API framework. I guess it's a feature that it returns JSX, that it can render JSX here. Made me laugh. Cool, I guess. Band does it by default, so why not? It even has styling. Come on, man. So how would we actually return a hello world from this? And on which server is it running to start with? Who knows? No renderer for sure. Index, we don't want this. I was hoping that we can type this a bit better. So let's see. Getting started, blah, blah, blah. HTML. There must be like a JSON thing. And something about typing. There you go. Let's do this one. Oof, logged in with Cloudflare. That's actually like a super feature. But let's just say, can we get the name like this? Parameters. Looks like the answer is yes. And can we default this? Does it know that this exists? If I do this, does it know that this doesn't exist? Ah, it says that it may be undefined. Well, here it's like, it must be defined. Sure. Ooh. Don't want to use anything. It's this. Optional parameter like this. Question mark in the end. Or word. Cool. If we restart the servers now, do we start the Hono server? Because it's Vite, it's trying to start in the same server. And it's a race condition which one starts first. So let's specify the port. Oh, and indeed, this one ran first. So port, dev server port. Let's see. Nope. In the Vite docs. Not on the CLI. The config. The classic where I know that it's somewhere there, but not quite. The preview server is here, I guess. Where is the dev server at? Where is the dev server at? Workbase, blah blah. Is it a server? Anything about dev? Not really. So let's try it. Server port 3000. Why not? There you go. And if I start again, right, SvelteKit app on 5173, API on port 3000. So let's see, localhost 3000, not found, great. But if I go to /hello, I get the hello world, beautiful. Johnny, I get the parameter, great, it works. It works. So anything else we may want? I guess this is like for the future, if we use D1 or the key value store or anything, we can extend that, sure. tsconfig. Ah, interesting. What is this? The words most rudimentary readme. Implemented with Hono. Sure, and this doesn't need to be TSX anymore. It can be this public directory. We don't need this anymore. So it's all good. Let's run the formatter again and commit everything in push, because I think we're good. Double check the package.json here. It has a preview. It has a deploy method here. Interesting. PNPM up. Title dependencies. W for workspace. No? Let's have a look. Task workspace. Nothing. All good. All latest. Sure. So let's try to commit everything, I guess. Or push everything. Old API server using Hono.js. And if I push, what happens? I guess it just worked somehow. That's kind of scary. Is it because I didn't create the implement selected file, so I didn't create a directory? I guess the answer is yes. But yeah, all the changes are up. All right, let's consider this completed. Let's look at this commit has. I think we can reference it and actually say in our open issue closed by this was almost cool. All right, so API done. We did it ourselves. We won't do the Swift app now. It's just to see, can it do any UI first? So let's do that for now. So what do we want? This is going to be a playlist creation app. And let's start writing. Add a form where a user can fill in a few fields and request a playlist of songs. Should be in the home route. Should be using super forms. I don't know. Put the link here. Should have a drop down. Let's say it should have a number input for the desired playlist length. Let's see. So here, let's open in workspace and see what we managed to get. It figures out the home route does not include a form. There is no form, no super forms anywhere. Tailwind exists, but it's not used. Acceptance criteria, which they call proposed solution, which is confusing. Blah, blah, blah. Suggested questions. How should the form handle invalid input? What fields should be included in the form besides playlist length? I guess these are good to ask to your product owner or like the founder you're building this for. Fair questions. Should the form have any validation rules? How should the form submission be handled? More ideas about enhancing the form's user experience. Learn about integrating Tailwind with SvelteKit. Like if you press this and it gives a link to my video, then I've made it, truly. And it has a link. I've added a link to Superforms, which it also includes as additional context, but inactive URL. I don't know. Let's click the generate plan. I think this magically creates a branch. Maybe not. Maybe when I click implement, it does. And it's saying, right, so it's going to import Superforms from Superforms Svelte, which I'm not sure if it's a real thing, but I do know that Superforms needs something in +page.server on the server side, as well as something on the front end. So not convinced it's going to work. So can we edit this further? Listen. So still the same thing. It's saying something about adding the dependency here instead of amending the packagation. Fair enough. It is asking me, I guess, to run this or just press this, and it was gonna add both. I can amend these to add them as dev dependencies. It's nice. And yeah, the actual name of the library is this. Come on. Come on. So just one line, these two. So it just dreamed what that library was called, as I suspected. And we need the schema. So how do we say the new one? Here. Which is gonna be apps, web, source, routes, schema.ts. Create it. And add the Zod validation schema. Good, and then we want yet another file. The server version of this. So yet another thing, create in apps, web, source, routes, +page server.ts, use this, create it, I guess. And just say this. Initialize the form in the load function. And do we need a separate form component? A playlist request form? I guess. How does it call it here? Here it has it in line, I suppose. Not really. Form. Yeah, it does have it in line. All right, so let's ask it to implement like that. And run this command. So they have done the tarot reading one. Simpler app. Give it a chance to create some UI for us. Ugh, it doesn't do it in the correct directory, sadly. But clever on PNPM. To not just do it. And I think other package managers do it like this. So run them all. Oh, it always goes there. Ugh. Doesn't make sense. Trust this item. Try it like this. Now it's done it. And implement all files, please. So if added, it has added the schema in line here in Codespaces.svelte, even though I said where to put it later. It has a form and it's doing a use form thing. That's not a real thing. It has a button with a button type submit, which, you know, is my biggest pet peeve. Like buttons inside forms are by default submit buttons. Buttons outside forms are by default button type. Has a label outside of the input, I guess. This may look correct. This kind of looks correct, like I would be doing more things, but it looks alright, I suppose. So if I could add if I could run the dev server now, what happens? Ugh, it's forgot what the run command is, which is unfortunate. It's not dev, it's npm dev. And interestingly, now we have two dev servers running. Will it understand that we have two dev servers running? First, we need to install dependencies. So should they actually be... Should I do like install and run? I don't know if I manually do this again. I guess it does kind of work. So 2 ports running. Has it figured out? Open live preview. Which one are we gonna get? It gets 1000. Put TSX. Whoops. Whoops. But anyway, that's not the preview that we want. Would it have created the other one? in 5173. Let's see. Yes, good. Yeah, so even though I corrected this, it insisted of trying to import it like that. And yeah, what can we do? So I kind of like the plan instructions, even though like it lies, even though these things like they aren't what you should be doing. Were my instructions better if I were to give this in a junior developer? I think so. It would be nice if it knew you need to touch these files, update this file and create this file. But again, I needed to tell it that you need to add the schema there. You need to have a plus page server. Like I needed to say all of this stuff. So that's not great. But let's switch to VS Code. Open that. I can, so I have this new GitHub Copilot workspace thing, which shows the plan here, which is cute. And we can see all the things that it created for us. So this is not a real thing. And it's time to follow the tutorial, I suppose. And I guess the main example no. The main example, this is not actually what we want. It has like the front-end stuff as well here, sadly. Looks like a Svelte thing. Yeah, so what's this about? I think that's just a typo in the docs, right? Yes, so. Anyway, in plus server TS, that's what we want. Place with your database, nope. None of these, what's happening? And we have selected that it's odd. I think these docs used to be better. All right, that looks more accurate. I don't know if there was like a glitch. But these guys, did I add them to package.json? I ran the command, but I think the command didn't persist. SvelteKit Superforms is here. And so is odd. So what's this about? I didn't PNPMI locally, of course, and it doesn't copy over the node modules. So I need to manually do this. Then it's gonna be happy. Maybe I need a reload. Good. Folder on this dev container configuration file. You open the folder to develop in a container. I don't want to. I guess this is the random file we spotted before. It's fair enough. And what did it do for our schema file? Did this. Minimum is this with this error. So yeah, at least 3 minutes. Let's say at least 5. All right, just looking at this and making a little change is fine. I swear that this used to have like more types. Maybe they decided to keep it simpler. Anyway, doesn't matter. This schema, let's call it playlist schema. I guess when we have an extracted component for the form, we will need those types, but for now we don't. And here we pass in the playlist schema. Great, now we're happy. Now on the page.svelte, here it's doing many things that we won't want. It's not using TypeScript, even though it should. And I guess in this case, we'll have let data get it from the props magically. And in here we can say welcome to Harmony. Form use form completely made up. Not a real thing at all. And an action to handle this. Fair enough. So on displaying the form, bring this from SvelteKit Superforms, I imagine. No client-side validation, I guess, here. The method should be post and use this enhance. Use form, not a real thing at all. And the label, let's see how the UI looks. And binding the output. Let's copy all of these things. So type should be number, correct? No ID. Name should be length in minutes. Errors is length in minutes. Length in minutes. Should it be seconds? Maybe. Something for the future. And the button generate doesn't need to be a submit button. On the left, we can see what the output is. All right, it looks like something. It looks like something. Starts from 5 because we've spread these constraints. Sure. So on the backend, we need the form action for this. It's going to be the default form action. Plonk. Not typed. Good. This super validate will be the same. These methods we may access later, sure. More autocompletion. So wait a minute, we need the request in there. Good. So now this will handle it. If I try to press this, browser validation will stop me. But this will submit and reset the form. You would like a playlist for 5 minutes. So it does work. Should I reset the form? I think the answer is no. We can pass this as an option here in Superforms. False. And yeah, maybe make use of the message. Say if message. Is this a store? I think so. So submit this, form posted successfully. Great. That's what we returned here. Let's say the output is this. Sure. And do we want a default value? Maybe in the schema. Oof, broke something. I think it automatically tried to sync something and removed like a ton of work. Oh well. Didn't dream this, right? You've seen me done this. Cool. So we have this rudimentary form. I guess the label is linked, like no tests or anything. Fair enough. Retain working knowledge of Superforms. It's been years at this point. I do have some. I think I even have remembered some validation stuff from Angular 0.14 days. Now that's scary. I think that's it for this part. Like we have some form here. Of course, like no suggestions about tests, anything like that. I wonder now that it has an example of how we can use Superforms. Will it do better next time I ask it? I don't know. It would be neat. But I would like it to ask to write a meaningful test. So we did actually create Playwright ourselves. So that's the next thing we'll do soon. So let's push this. Should it be minutes or should it be seconds? We'd never ask the user to say 5 minutes and 39 seconds or something. Yeah. But maybe it makes more sense to ask for seconds. Let's do it. Should we do it? Nah, doesn't matter. Keep it simple. Right, so we have this schema. We have this UI that they created for us. Doesn't look great, let's be honest, but it's there. We're using Superforms. correctly. Great. And this is an unrelated fix needed to do. Whoops. All right, so put changes to the brands and mark the session as complete. And what happens after? Can I close it? Hey, Punch Card. Thank you for prompting me to start doing a bit of code as well. I do get into myself. Keep suggesting things, and I'll keep thinking and doing them. I do find this quite interesting. Like, we did make it to the UI, and we won't be doing much more today. Critical thing that we'll do now is the test. So I will ask to create meaningful tests for this and see how it comes up. I think that'd be cool. But looking forward to you watching more stuff. Keep the suggestions coming. So I push this. Is the code what we want? I think so. I think it's managed to sync. Great. So create a pull request. Generate a description. Will it say also cheeky fix on the API directory? It keeps mentioning that the PNPM log is updated, which no engineer would say. It comes part and parcel. It also uses US English, which is quite fun. Sure. And it didn't, like, I snuck by the fix for the API service with Hono.js. Didn't click this. Click it fast. So let's look at the pull request, I guess. And I can still update it. What did we call it? Harmony. Brilliant. Pull request is here. Good. And I want to say, so this is a common like Git trick or GitHub trick, I guess. Closes number 6. And then GitHub magic will mean that it will know that if you merge this, you close the issue. Quite fun. Without this, it says related to, which is already nice. But I can say that it actually closes this. So maybe that's the update that I want. I wonder if that's the thing that I did before when I did remember to toggle that button. Probably. Good. So even if I've had to do work with the Copilot workspace session, if you were like drinking martinis on a beach, you could still be on your phone, click that link and review the change and be like, you know, make it pop, Sonny. And then I would make it pop. But joking aside, being able to see this thing is good. I guess it's the same as having a preview deployment if all you're going to do is look at the functionality of the app. But being able to look at the code as well gives you some more space to nitpick my implementation. Yeah, so interesting. Deploy previews do fix this, which deploy previews are easy to do with Cloudflare or Vercel nowadays. So the big thing is, does it make it easier for you to look at the code and add comments itself? Not sure. I need to try it out with friends in real life. Right, so we have closed this. Next up in the agenda, can it write a meaningful Playwright test? And yeah, we'll write the test, take over to actually make it meaningful if it's not meaningful to begin with, then do the GitHub Actions CI/CD. I think that's the thing. And I don't know if we'll try to expand on the form or try for fun to ask it to do an Apple Music integration and see how crazy it is. We'll see. And this is indeed its chance to impress me. Let's see, let's give it a good chance. Using the existing Playwright configuration, add a new test. I'd say add meaningful test coverage to see if it will add one test or more. And I think that's it. I won't dare tell it if there is an error, then I see a different host to retry or whatever. So let's see. Maybe I will say for accessibility, use Playwright get by role locators as much as possible. So let's see. Using existing Playwright configuration, add meaningful test coverage for the existing playlist form functionality. As a user, I want to be able to select various playlist lengths. I see a message confirming my request was understood after form submission. This is how I talk, but I should open with a grammatically incorrect, but more understandable. After for submission, start with after. Flexibility, use Playwright get by role together as much as possible for our sessions. All right, so open in workspace. Let's see how will it do. Current behavior, will it say we only have like a smoke test? Like, no, there is no meaningful Playwright test coverage. Like, all right, don't hurt my feelings. It did find a basic test. The existing Playwright configuration, okay, good. It did find the playlist form is in that correct plus page of Svelte file. So even though we haven't extracted the form into its own component, it figured out that this is the playlist form that we need. Good. And it says as a spec, don't change the Playwright config. Fair enough. Sure. It wouldn't be one of my requirements if the engineer came up and was like, oh, I made the Playwright config better, which we have in other places. I'll be happy. I'd be delighted. And this is another interesting one because the VS Code plugin for Playwright is excellent. And I love using the preview browser and using the locator to find, to validate my get by role selectors and stuff. But you know what would be more awesome? If everything was done for me and I could just validate that it looks great. All right, so it understands that it will only be adding tests, not adding functionality. And it's gonna create a playlist form .test TS. I would name it differently, but I guess it's too late now. And it just does a rudimentary filling this, and then does it have this value? Okay. And the other one, get by role spin button, it says. All right, did we learn, are we gonna learn something today? Spin button. The spin button role defines a type of range that expects the user to select a value from amongst discrete choices. Did you know this? I didn't know this. So that's great. Oof. Any examples of a spin button? But this is great. Like I told it to use accessible selectors, and it managed to teach me that there is this thing called a spin button, not just a number input type of thing. For number puts. No. There is a slider role, so it's spin button. Wow. Spin button example. Will we ever find this? So this is a spin button, I guess. Sure. Let's see how it looks. Like clearly, if you told me that you know, this is a hallucination and the AI dreamt that up, I'd believe it. So it has keyboard navigation as well. Focus works normally. It doesn't use my spin wheel when I'm in there, which is like fair enough, I guess. And where is the role? So specifically this one is not an input, but it has specifically the spin button role. I guess nothing has this by default. Shouldn't this be an input? Oh well. And surely there is JavaScript happening here. Don't use this in production. This is an example. And there is a spin button pattern. It's like, what's happening? Out of nowhere. And yeah, so quite a lot of cool things here. This thing, all of this belongs in a group, which includes the label, includes the arrows you can click, includes the actual value and the placeholder values up and down. Awesome. And you can even pronounce the day, like you add a hint here. The area value text. Have you used this? I've never used this. To actually pronounce 11. It's like the value is 11, but the screen reader will say 11th. Wow. So there you go. A cheeky test for the existing functionality. I guess so that I did say meaningfully test the existing functionality, and we don't have this functionality. You made this up. But it's all for accessibility, so I cannot say no. I will need to implement this. Anyway, we have the tests here. Can I open in the integrated VS Code? Let's see. So we have the code space, and I can only imagine the Playwright extension would not be available here. Playwright by Microsoft, the Microsoft stack, as we know. Oh. And here, okay, can I configure this actually? This is kind of scary because I do have quite a lot of extensions here. So auto is fine, but this workspace is PNPM for sure. Do I need to press this button? I don't know. All right, so let's say I press the install button here. What will it do? It did add this tag. But it didn't add Playwright here, even though I've added this. I wonder if we need to like reload this. I don't know. But I am a bit skeptical of whether this is gonna work, so I am gonna switch over to VS Code. Open. And we have the dev servers running. I have the VS Code extension. Let's see what it's gonna do. We have the playlist form test. And I do like calling these like .spec, just to make them look different to the Playwright, to the VTest tests. But like the demo test was there as a pattern, so fair enough to use the pattern that I had established. Let's make this the navigation smoke test that I like. And let's call this generate playlist. This test is meaningless, surely. And we can just keep the one like on the top level. It's fine. Go to the home page. Great. Find the input. Sure. It won't be able to find it, but that's fine. And we won't be taking it anywhere, so we could even just do it, Johnny. So it is expecting the roll spin button, which is not going to find, and the name playlist length, which we have a label for, so that's fine. And then it tries to find the button, but we just want to await it, it's fine. And then it managed to find the correct copy as well, so that's good. So all of this is pretty good. Pretty good, kid. Run the test. There you go. So it's running the Playwright test with showing the browser as well. Doesn't show that it's Chrome because of the, let's say, minimal SvelteKit wizard configuration. Doesn't specify projects, which I don't like. Maybe we can copy one from Gainzatron, to be honest. But we do get this, which is gonna time out because that doesn't exist. Timeout is 30 seconds, which is ancient. It is claiming that this is a role spin button somehow. So an input type number becomes spin button. Learn something new. And I guess it's not tied to this label. That has to be the problem. Like somehow it did find this. Let's see. So the locator might, yeah, so that does exist, and you do see this thing, and everything is fine and dandy. And this is like too fast to actually see, but I guess you have to trust that it's doing everything, and you see this message. Because we see this message in the end. Great. But when I do ask for a name, that doesn't quite work. And why is that? I removed the ID here because I made a mistake. So nest is in there. Nest these guys. And try the more accessible test. And still not. So even though I've put the label in there, it still doesn't quite work. Let's also try length in minutes here. Let's try again. No, I'm afraid not. So no ID here, nothing here. And I guess that's the problem. Like if I say literally this, if I just say this, is it gonna be happy? Don't think so. Anything else I could check here? So I did put it in here, even if I gave it an ID and said it should be labeled by this, it still didn't quite work. Sadly. Try once more. Yeah. So this should be the area label name, right? If I just hardcode area label is playlist length. Will it find it? It's literally this. And are we learning that inputs that have type number, they become spin buttons? How did I miss this? Don't know. So even without regex, this should just work without it being case sensitive. See if that helps. Anything else? No weird typo on length or anything. Is this not the spin button? I guess we found it with the locator, it has to be. Clicking here does get me correctly in the spinner. So I don't know what that's about. What is the accessible name of this, if not that? I don't know. We only have one spin button for now. Let's just use this one. Move on with our lives. One more interesting thing we need to do. After should like the big story test. So this is running, this is still running, everything is running good. And let's commit these changes. If specified, npm here, sure. And just line broke here and added the ID for this. No need for this. Renamed the demo test to navigation smoke test. Added this since we do we have Gainzatron somewhere? Maybe not. Let's quickly get it. Let's copy our Playwright config. We've talked about the cool stuff that we're doing here. Locally, we have a sorter timeout, which makes it easier to debug things. This is pretty much what you get if you run the Playwright wizard for setting up Playwright itself. It gives you more things with comments, so you know which options you're using and what you can try on and not, and also names the projects. What I like having is desktop Chrome, desktop Firefox, and mobile Safari. And I also like using the dev server. So let's copy this wholesale. Plonk. It claims it doesn't know what process is. And I guess it's true because we haven't done this. Sure. So in the web app, I guess we could have it in the root app as well. So now if we reload, a cool thing to show would be for all my tests, including the form test. Now in my projects, I have these options on whether I want to run it on everything or a specific project. So let's run this for Safari, and you'll see it will open the smaller screen here, smaller viewport. Neat. Our app doesn't have a name or anything. That's fine. So it's an easy way, like if you run the test in CI and you're like, mobile Safari doesn't work, how do I focus on solving for mobile Safari? You can use the VS Code extension here and just pick your Safari project. Just run that. Cool. This may happen because sometimes for the mobile breakpoint, you're doing other things or you have different elements. But on the wide viewport, you have other elements. So if you're always testing against the desktop big viewport, maybe you'll never see it. You'll never see the problem. Cool. All right, last bit that I'm hopeful for, actually run the CI. Actually have the CI set up using Codespaces. I have high hopes that this would work because GitHub, owned by Microsoft, should know GitHub Actions very well. But as we burned before, it is one of the things where I do ask the chat to give me a GitHub Action configuration or this or whatever. And it will sometimes insist on doing something that's not correct. Or even when I tell it to do something that I know is correct because I'm looking at the documentation, it will say, nah. The example is using vars. GitHub Actions can have secret environment variables and just variables. And for some reason, in many projects, the GitHub Copilot has insisted that vars is not a real thing. And even when I was going to tell it, it is a real thing, it will not do it. So in theory, GitHub Actions, it should be ace, it should be great at, but in practice, it's not. Let's see if it is nowadays with a GitHub Codespaces thing. Let's see. Son says you've had to declare outdated versions a lot. That happens to me a lot for sure. I always need to check which version it's checking out. All right, so we have this. I guess it doesn't have the no definitions here, but I think we're good. Share link, I guess that's the thing in the end where you click and you get into the repo, which is fair enough. Open GitHub, this. I forgot to say add a description here. Whoops. It says fixes here instead of related. And yeah, I guess that will just do it. Oop. No extra line there. We'll fix it later, I guess. We'll have to. Rebase, merge. Git stas, git pull. All right, we're on the way. Being done. I liked the test. We don't have a lot of functionality, so let me know if you want me to revisit and actually make this a big form. It would be fun. Maybe we will end with this part where I will ask it to create an endpoint where we hit the Apple Music API to get a playlist based on like tempo or whatever. Because I haven't looked at the docs, I have no idea how that would work. So it would be fun to see what the suggestion would be. But for a more meaningful episode, if you'd like to see me do it, we can develop the form more and say, actually, you need to specify like from a variety of options like upbeat or, you know, workout focus or whatever, study. And you still do the length and something else like surprise me button, I don't know. And then see how it amends the code. Also, it hasn't used like SAT-CN components or anything like that. Haven't been dazzled by the UI, but we didn't ask it. And I wonder if we did have more components in the app, would it try to use them? I don't know. But for now, and if it was adding these extra features, it would be interesting to see if the tests would still be good. I was excited. I'd say passing grade for the tests. That's really good. Let's see how it does with the GitHub Actions. So we know the drill by now. We go to the issues. Create GitHub action. Run Playwright tests. Run against every pull request. Only when the web app has changes. So let's see. Will it use PNPM? Will it only look for that directory, the directory of the web app? Interesting questions. Let's see if it just does it. I could also ask it to do like the CD continuous deployment part and integrate with Cloudflare pages. But given with pages specifically, you can just go to the UI and in Cloudflare and specify a GitHub repo, and then you have your deployment. I think that'd be easier to do. So it figures out that there is no workflow for this. It figures out that there is a script that it can add, but no automation is running it. It figures out there are tests and a Playwright config. And it has the acceptance criteria and all of that. All right, so generate the plan. You can do it with one workflow file. All right, so it's going to create a new workflow file. It's going to trigger it on pull request on main and process to main. It's going to run ubuntu test, I guess. Install dependency using PNPM, great. And run the Playwright test using PNPM test. On failure, keep video artifacts. Retain. Will it confuse it or will it do it? I don't know. But let's implement. Right, so the name is Playwright tests. Guess it created without the A here. Can I edit this? Update. And I also want in README Interesting that this is case sensitive. Add the bands. All right, so it hit the other file that it didn't actually create. Fair enough. I think that's fine. So in here, it is looking just for changes in its directory. Great. On push against main and pull request against main. Great. Runs Ubuntu, older version of checkout. Setup Node.js, way old version of Node. Installs the dependencies. It specifies the working directory like in every step, while you can specify it further up. And if there's a failure, it's gonna upload the artifact. I think that's correct. But Gainzatron has this, so let's look at all the changes we actually need to do. And Gainzatron is here. YAML, Playwright YAML. Can we rename the file? Nope. I guess this was our chance to change the file name. Can we change it here? Let's see, will it do better or will it do worse? Oh, it forgot the readme one. Try again. All right, it was hiding all the things that it's done. We don't want this anymore. We don't want this anymore. And we want this change to actually be this. All right. I think that's correct. So here we were saying correct, correct, only there. Great. Checkout version is wrong. And at some point we should specify the directory. Here, it's defaults. And timeout minutes as well is also suggested. So on the run zone level, we can specify defaults, run with this working directory, and timeout, longer timeout for tests. So everywhere else where it specifies working directory, we don't actually need it. But important to know, even though we have the working directory, for some reason, this is still relative to the monorepo, not the working directory specified. Kind of interesting. Then we have the checkout and the setup and the node setup, both different versions, self-explanatory. And yeah, let's use this version of Node. Why not? Install the dependencies, run the tests. That's what we're doing here. Ah, interesting. So here we're using npm to install pnpm. While like there is this cas here. I guess it just zips with pnpm. Will it just not work? GitHub node pnpm. And it's using this cas as suggested before. But this action, which looks to be maintained by the pnpm team, it is saying this. So let's use it. I don't think Node has PNPM by default, even today. Don't run install yet because we're only bringing it in. Can I specify the version here? Just because we're saying package manager 9.11. And the setup node with a specific version and cas PNPM. Good idea. Well done. Install the dependencies, run the Playwright tests. Don't we need to install the Playwright browsers? That's not gonna work. Yeah, we definitely need this step. So I suspect PNPM install wouldn't have worked if we didn't do something to install PNPM. This time we're using the PNPM action. I am certain that the PNPM test wouldn't work because the Playwright browsers would not be installed. But now we install them. Great. And then on failure, we can upload the artifacts. Also a different version of upload artifact. And with name retention days, we can specify why not. And for some reason, I do have a relative directory there. I don't know if that's what makes it work or not, but hey. And we said that this is also before. Sure. So that looks correct. Let's create a pull request which should... My doggy just ate and gave a very hearty burp. Sign of health. Right, so this should trigger a workflow. Surely, it's a pull request. So where is it? Did it add it in the incorrect file? It added it inside the apps directory. Come on, man. Come on. Edit file, I can only edit the file. I cannot move it. Rookie mistake. GitHub Codespaces. You should know how GitHub workflows work. Please. But no big deal. Check out this branch which exists. Doesn't exist. What's that about? Why is it this name? Pull first in any case. So it's using the name of the previous branch, right? Not sure, maybe not. And let's see what we've added. Workflow, this one. So that's a classic mistake that I wouldn't have noticed because it's like so silly and so small. But will cut you out. It's a problem. And so whatever we have in here, move it to the current directory. And yeah, check that out. Everything else should be correct. Besides this. So it is looking for it in the correct place somehow. Is that correct? We have a badge here. Yeah, so it's actions, workflows, and then the name of the action. Actions, workflows. So in here, in the README, it knew. In the README, it knows that it should be at the root of the repository. But not in real life. GitHub workflows, yeah. So let's add these changes. Let's amend the previous comment, adjust for spoof. No need to do 2 comments for this. And now the workflow should run. And it does. Son says maybe issue templates is the gap to bridge overall with Copilot workspaces. I haven't used issue templates because I don't have like open source repositories and stuff, but I can see how having a very specific pattern of how you raise your issues, a standard way to do that could help Copilot workspaces implement those features better instead of me just, filling in some bullet points haphazardly. If you find out what works best for Copilot or Codespaces, this thing, it would be good to have guidelines to ensure other people enforce it as well. So this seems to be working. Again, like it wrote some code for me, but I suspect it would cause more debugging problems. Like especially, like let's say you know nothing about GitHub Actions. You would just be staring at the screen, being like, why is it not running? And then you'd need to Google it, I guess, and eventually you'll figure it out. But you would waste quite a bit of time. Would it be more time than if you manually went to like the UI and pressed the button to create a new GitHub action? I don't know. The Playwright wizard also creates a GitHub action for you, by the way, if you want. So would that have been a better way to do it? Probably. Right? So we have no favicon, but other than that, the dev server run and the tests passed. You can see the dots here, dot, 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 dot. 6 tests. We only have 2 tests, but they run against 3 browsers each. So 6 tests, great. And I guess this proves that this works. I guess it doesn't prove that if it fails, it's gonna record the video and keep it uploaded for us to see. But, that's fine. Can't have everything in life sometimes. So rebase and merge. Close another issue. And I think at about 3 hours and a half we'll be done. Let's ask for a SwiftUI app just to see what it comes up with. It's either the SwiftUI or the API with Apple Music integration. Chat, let me know. Add either scaffold SwiftUI app. Guess I can do both. Scaffold SwiftUI app. So it goes for SwiftUI in apps iOS. A rudimentary form with so we have this, and we could also create a new issue and say integrate with Apple Music. with Apple Music. Create a playlist, generate post endpoint, takes in playlist length and in minutes and optionally desired focus. This is a series of songs. Let's say that. So 2 features to add. Let's say the SwiftUI one, as Son urges me on. So open workspace. So it's like we have nothing. Let's generate a plan. Make everything. Step 1, draw a circle. All right, so I'm laughing because if only you could create 2 files and then you have a running Swift app, iOS app. But sure. There you go. And it even has a preview. There you go. So I suppose this is the thing in Swift that makes it get the number pad. It has some colors. I wonder if blue is the default. But yeah, I don't know, like enough Swift to know if this is the way it should go nowadays. This persists nothing to the database, to any database. This does no API requests, which is like fair enough. But my question is, like, does that code space exist? So if I go there, do I need a PR for this? I guess I can just open the PR if I'm afraid to lose it. My suspicion, if I were to scaffold a SwiftUI app in this, would be that it needs like maybe 20 more files at minimum. But I don't know, haven't done this in a while. If it were React Native, I think it would need like 60. But maybe I'm just exaggerating. But yeah, create pull request, check if it works. How would you test this? Which environment would it create? I don't know. There may be plugins that allow you to run the preview, the Xcode preview, the emulator preview, even on VS Code. So I wonder if this would work in the cloud, because that'd be awesome. Since we're here, let's do the API integration as well, since we're not actually going to be doing it. Doesn't hurt to ask, as they say. So let's review what we asked regarding the Apple Music integration. We're saying in our Hono.js app, we wanted to integrate with Apple Music. So we want a playlist generate post endpoint, which takes a playlist length in minutes and optionally a desired focus and returns the playlist. Let's see, will it do better than this? says nothing exists. Generate a plan. It's gonna add it into the existing index.ts, which is, I guess, fair enough. Parses for length in minutes and focus. Sure. And returns the playlist. Okay, so this is the draw a bunny, draw the rest of the owl type of thing. Let's see if it's gonna draw the rest of the owl or if it's gonna be abstracted away for us. I believe I asked to integrate with Apple Music. I didn't ask to return hard-coded songs. Contractor, not getting paid for this. But fair enough, it does say placeholder logic for generating a playlist, and this is like the placeholder. So, okay. You know, contractor gave this, I'd be like, fair enough. He's gonna do they're gonna do the rest of the implementation in the next PR. Fair enough. And yeah, I don't know what I expected. It did create the post endpoint here. It hasn't typed anything, but then again, I didn't type this. I think Hono magically creates types kind of like SvelteKit, so this is very typed. So for example, this doesn't actually have any type. We know that if we run it in a repo, it knows it's either string or undefined. So that's good. Yeah, it is saying, you know, you'll have a magic generate playlist method, and that's the one where you're gonna integrate with Apple Music, which is okay. I could take this out, you know, we could merge this as a placeholder and have it render something in the UI. I didn't suggest the type of what a song should look like, so it's fair enough. It's like title, artist, and duration in minutes. That's crazy. It should be seconds here. But yeah, I don't know what I expected. Not outside the realm of what I expected. But I would be hoping that we'd already be on the next step, since I specified Apple Music, to have something about environment variables, bring in your Apple Music API key, like here's the Apple Music developer docs, here's how you integrate, like all those things. They'd be nice to have there, you know? Even more than this code, which you can write in like minutes. It would be nice to have a reading material list. Like it gives you the steps, like read about this. Read about how to integrate, how do you create the API key, all of those things. That would be neat. And yeah, I'm kind of scared to ask about the deployment stuff, but I think this is gonna be it for this episode. Let's do our final preview. Someone asks, is it possible to fit it docs in context? I think I've read no, but we've seen that when I do add links in the issue, it keeps saying, like here in the plan, when I did add some links, it was saying like something like outside of context, some link. So it must surely be something that they're looking into at the very least. But I didn't see any toggle to actually say read the docs. And by the way it implemented Superforms, it didn't seem like it actually read the Superforms link, because it was way different to what it had as an example there. Because it was the current version of Superforms, not the other one that maybe it was trained on. So I'm sure they'll have this feature, but it doesn't seem to be something there. And it would be nice, like on any one of these, to be able to say, actually implement like this, actually read this, and then make it happen. This is something you can do with any developer of any skill level. You can tell them, read this and make it happen. And varying results, but better results than not being able to tell them anything. But we did get SvelteKit up in the end. We did a lot of the stuff ourselves, let's be honest. We ran the SvelteKit wizard. We needed to do the superforms integration ourselves. Did we save time in the end? I don't know. It was kind of fun to go back and forth. I know I have the chat, but if you're alone, it can be hard to just go by yourself. So that was kind of fun, I suppose. Lots of the things that it did for us were actual mistakes, outdated stuff that got us out, including putting the GitHub workflow in the wrong directory nested inside the web app. Rookie mistake, really. So the turbo repo setup, so we had it create a monorepo from scratch for us. It had mistakes. It didn't know about PNPM workspaces. It needed to create this file. It was referencing stuff in package.json incorrectly. Did it save us time there? I'd say definitely not, but I have created monorepos before. So that's something. But if you haven't created them before and you run into mistakes because it hallucinates stuff, then are you going to learn or are you just going to be stumped? I don't know. Cannot answer this for you. What else did it do? In the GitHub Action, again, like not only did it put it in the wrong directory, but it didn't install PNPM, which I'm not sure. I don't think Node comes with PNPM now. Not sure. But it definitely doesn't come with the Playwright browser. So it didn't have this tab. So you'd have the soul-crushing experience of seeing the GitHub action after you've debugged it to actually run, fail, and then you'd be like, oh no, what happened? And then you'd need to see, oh, we didn't install the Playwright browsers. We need this step too. Why didn't you have it in the first place? I don't imagine there is any GitHub action that looks like this. Not sure. Then we had it both scaffold and iOS, where it did create like a couple components in SwiftUI that, you know, I cannot say that they don't work. I think they were gonna look nice. It didn't create the SwiftUI project. It didn't give us like click here to see the Xcode emulator preview. So I don't know. But it did create the two main files of our actual app. So they may be fine. And when we asked for Apple Music integration, it did create this quite fun thing where it did correctly add a new endpoint for us to post to, and then it abstracts away the logic, placeholder logic for actually generating the playlist. So it didn't actually integrate with Apple Music or anything. I wonder if I asked for Spotify, where there must be more body of work, would it have done something? I don't know. If we've done this and then I keep asking and say, also add this, if I click the revise button, I didn't add the revise button at all here. So let's see. Can you please actually integrate with the Apple Music API? It's like, great. I'm gonna run the command Apple Music API to add it. And that's gonna do nothing. But, all right, so here we go. Generate playlist. Now it's an asynchronous method. Takes in a token, which fair enough, you must put in yourself. It doesn't say put it in .env or anything. And then this Apple Music URL, is it a real thing? Doesn't look like a real, it's a 401, so it could be a real thing. We could not be authenticated. Great. And this is the authenticates with bear token apparently. And just fetches any playlist. Okay. So it doesn't do our magic method to use AI to actually suggest a playlist. It just fetches one playlist, I suppose. But that's fine. And I guess knows that the keys are named like this, like so. And the API returns duration in millis for milliseconds. Kinda nice. And remembers to do the conversion. Okay, so that's more what I expected. That's fair enough. That would be very acceptable if I had if I was working with someone else and told them do this, and then they said, well, you didn't tell me how to make the magic playlist that you want. So for now, we're just hitting Apple Music to prove we can hit Apple Music and returning a random playlist from it. I would say, great job, you did it. So, promising. And I would say this is like a huge difference from hard-coded resulting of returning some songs, which may be the point where it start. But just because I said integrate with Apple Music and it didn't integrate at all, I was a bit demoralized. But now that it at least did this, I don't know, I have faith. Again, the classic danger with LLMs. Is this the real endpoint we should be hitting? Is this how you're supposed to authenticate with an authorization header? It looks legit, but I don't know if it's correct. I'll need to read the docs, which is fair enough. I suppose at some point you gotta read the docs. Like, is this keyed inside data? I don't know. But would read the docs to find out. Right. So that's about it for today. Son says, feels like a time sink with potential to be a time saver with reusable issue templates. And yeah, very often, like if you have, even when you work with real people, if you have to describe all the steps and all the instructions yourself, sometimes it's just easier to just do it. But maybe it enables people that have the vision in their head. But does it if you have to specify, if in the instruction you need to say request the token from Apple Music, create an API key, put it in the secret environment variables, fetch it safely, like I don't know, if you know these details, you may know enough to just do it yourself. So would it save time to relay to another person? I guess when it comes to involving someone else, you have the opportunity to eventually delegate. So even if you need to be super clear at the start, then eventually they'll be able to self-drive and, be a self-starter and all of those things that you need to say in interviews. And eventually they'll start saving you time and you'll successfully delegate it. But the problem with LLMs is that usually, well, they never learn anymore. They don't learn to your taste. So it will be interesting to see how this evolves. The big claim here is that it is reading, it is consuming everything else that's in the code space that is in this repo. So maybe it will be learning. So if we have the Apple Music integration and then we also want Spotify, maybe it will be able to do it on your style. It will have learned. So needs more trial and error to see how it works. It's pretty novel, which also makes it fun. That's also fun, like working with someone that you need to fix everything. At some point you're like, all right, you're not helping, it's time to see other people. But doing it against an LLM, there is this hope that it will get better. So there is the novelty factor that makes it more fun and makes me want to get into the weeds more over just doing it myself. But yeah, this was the developer preview as promised. I got in. I don't know if anyone said anything that, oh, Johnny's gonna do like a live stream if they get in. But I got in and here's the preview. Cool stuff. I do like that they did manage to create preview URLs for everything, for every port. So I didn't have to specify something that the API route runs on port 3000 and the SvelteKit app runs on port 5137. It just exposed all ports, I guess, in that link, and I'm able to visit them both. I was worried when it comes to monorepos that it may have some troubles there. I was pleasantly surprised, I would say, with being able to work in a monorepo. The initial monorepo setup, it didn't actually save us any time. But we were able to make it work. Asking it to do changes inside the monorepo, it was able to do them. So it wasn't, at the very least, it wasn't confused by the fact that we are in a monorepo, which is great news. I'm pleasantly surprised about that. That's great. And yeah, the quality of the answers themselves, not great, like kind of as expected, a bit outdated. Quite often, most of the training content is going to be from further back in time. So you're not going to get the latest tips. But again, like if you have a dashboard that runs some complicated SQL queries, and then you're like, oh, I want another view in this existing SvelteKit app that shows like some aggregations. If you want to tell it, I also want a view that tells me the clicks per minute on this page, it feels like it would be able to create the SQL and show it and add like the extra view in a dropdown in the SvelteKit app, and you'll be able to see it. So because SQL has been around for a while, it feels like it would generate an accurate SQL. And if you already have a dropdown of the possible views, it feels like it would be able to find the correct place to add the extra view option. So that's cool. That is a dream of I'm somewhere else, not on my editor, or don't have much time. I just want to quickly say, oh, I want this extra view, and it should be able to do it. And give me the link to validate, did it do it or not? Which again is also solved by preview deployments. So I don't know, but I can see this working. I may bring it in. I'm reading the docs. I thought it wasn't possible to bring it into an existing project. So I'll see if I can bring it in for Gainzatron for the next time we do a live stream on Gainzatron, because why not? Maybe we'll be asking the LLM to do it first and then we'll actually do it. But it would be fun to see how it works in a more mature app, is what I'm trying to say. If there is a lot of code to base the additions on, maybe it's gonna perform better. I don't know. But I'm interested in finding out. Cool, that's gonna be it for today. It's likely we'll live stream again next Sunday. I hope you had a fun one today. Suggest in the comments or the Discord what you'd like me to cover next. Very, very likely we go back to Gainzatron and add something. I don't know what. Likely authentication, if I had to guess. Like if you had to tell me tomorrow, Johnny, we're going live, what are you gonna do? It's gonna be authentication. People want to see it. I want to do it. So it's likely it's gonna be that. But let me know. Maybe you want something else. Maybe something else more exciting or more current. Thanks to everyone for watching so far, especially the people in the chat. It's always great to have company, makes these sessions go by faster. So have a lovely, lovely day and amazing week coming soon, but still enjoy the rest of your Sunday. See you around.